welcome to NTD News Today. I'm Evelyn Lee in for Kevin, and these are our top stories today. A top White House COVID-19 advisor says he doesn't expect vaccine mandates for domestic flights, at least not for now. And employees and active duty service members sue to block mandates. Southwest Airlines cancels more than 1,000 flights over the weekend, citing air traffic control issues and disruptive weather. Frustrated passengers wait in long lines. A fitness center in Delaware has launched its annual Salutes campaign for the upcoming Veterans Day. Proceeds will go to a nonprofit organization that furnishes apartments for homeless veterans. And a U.S. Navy nuclear engineer is charged with selling military secrets to a foreign government. Some secrets he hid in a sandwich, others he put in a pack of gum. White House COVID-19 advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci says he doesn't think there will be vaccine mandates for domestic flights, at least not in the near future. NTD's Jessica Beatty reports.
Dr. Anthony Fauci said Sunday he doesn't immediately expect a vaccine mandate for Americans flying domestically.
I don't want to say support or not. I mean, obviously, from a public health standpoint, the more protection you get, the better it is. But I don't want to be weighing in because we wind up then having people taking things out of context.
Last month, Fauci floated the idea of requiring domestic airline travelers to be fully vaccinated against the CCP virus. Right now, domestic travelers do not need to be vaccinated in order to travel. But a number of airlines are requiring U.S. employees to get the shot after the Biden administration's vaccine mandate for federal contractors. A union representing thousands of pilots for Southwest Airlines has sued the carrier to block its mandate. Lawyers for the union write the new vaccine mandate unlawfully imposes new conditions of employment, and the new policy threatens termination of any pilot not fully vaccinated by December 8, 2021. The union argues that the COVID-19 vaccines pose a unique risk to pilots because any adverse reaction could affect their ability to pass the medical requirements needed to fly. Last week, the company's CEO told workers that Southwest is a federal contractor, so it has to comply with President Biden's mandate. And Sidney Powell's group has filed a lawsuit against the Department of Defense over its vaccine mandate. The DoD is giving employees until November 22nd to be fully vaccinated. Powell's group, Defending the Republic, says it filed the lawsuit on behalf of 16 active duty service members. It says plaintiffs include those with natural immunity to COVID-19, women who wish to become pregnant, and others who face severe punishment if they don't get the vaccines. Last month, President Biden also said he'd direct OSHA to create a rule that would fine private businesses with 100 or more employees if they fail to force workers to either get vaccinated or tested weekly. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Southwest Airlines canceled more than 1,000 flights over the weekend, causing long lines and frustration for passengers across the country. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
Southwest Airlines canceled scores of flights over the weekend, citing air traffic control issues and disruptive weather. The Federal Aviation Administration said that air traffic control issues had been resolved on Friday. Southwest posted on Twitter Saturday. ATC issues and disruptive weather have resulted in a high volume of cancellations throughout the weekend while we work to recover our operation. We appreciate your patience as we accommodate affected customers, and customer service wait times are longer than usual. The airline canceled more than 1,000 flights as of Sunday, according to flight tracker FlightAware. Long lines formed at airports across the country as frustrated passengers tried to make other arrangements. Southwest has the highest cancellation rate at 28%. Allegiant canceled 5% of its flights, and Spirit canceled 4% of its flights on Sunday, according to FlightAware. American Airlines canceled 2% of its flights. Southwest declined to comment on whether cancellations were due to staffing shortages related to its COVID-19 vaccine mandate for employees. The Southwest Airlines Pilots Association has filed for a temporary restraining order against the mandate, but said that the legal motion was unrelated to the cancellations and delays. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The U.S. ambassador to Mexico speaks about the influx of migrants from Haiti, a day after U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with the Mexican president.
Secretary Blinken is very committed to working on developing a regional solution, and it has to be one that is led by both the United States and Mexico. It is a very significant issue for both countries. It's a very significant issue for the Western Hemisphere.
Salazar says both countries need to look for solutions. The Biden administration is increasingly reliant on its southern neighbor to stem the surge in migration. The U.S. still needs help with migrants coming in from Central America, but recent large influxes from Haiti and Venezuela have taxed border resources as well. Guatemalan police says 126 mostly Haitian migrants were abandoned in a trailer on Friday night. They were presumably also headed to the U.S. border. And more border wall contracts have been canceled by the Biden administration. The Department of Homeland Security announced projects at the Laredo and Rio Grande Valley sectors have been terminated. One of the first things President Biden did in office was pause wall construction at the U.S.-Mexico border and call for a review of funds and projects. The Department of Homeland Security said in a statement that, quote, CBP will then begin environmental planning and actions consistent with the National Environmental Policy Act. In July, U.S. Customs and Border Protection canceled 2 border wall contracts in the Laredo sector that spanned 31 miles. Texas leaders say these latest cancellations cover 44 miles. The Mexican Navy seized an enormous 2.6 tons of methamphetamines, a 15-pound bag of marijuana, and 792 gallons of gasoline. Video shows some of what happened. The bust took place in international waters near Ensenada in the Mexican state of Baja California. Authorities spotted a speedboat transporting 5 people moving in an irregular manner. Video shows the boat trying to evade authorities. 2 helicopters and boat patrols were used to catch the speedboat. Video also shows the confiscated drugs displayed in long rows that seem to stretch endlessly. All the drugs were reportedly transferred to the possession of the prosecutor's office. And Russia says it will allow the U.S. Undersecretary of State to visit the country for talks, despite having previously blacklisted her. The move comes after Washington agreed to lift a similar restriction placed on a Russian citizen. U.S. Undersecretary of State Victoria Nuland is expected in Moscow from October 11th to the 13th. The State Department says she will meet senior officials to discuss bilateral, regional, and global issues. According to Russian state news, Russia's foreign ministry spokeswoman said Nuland was previously on Russia's sanctions list. She added the issue was resolved once the U.S. removed Russian representatives and foreign policy experts from its sanctions list. The formerly sanctioned Russian citizen that was also a factor in getting Nuland's sanctions lifted was left unnamed. The United States imposed an array of sanctions on Russia, and relations between Moscow and Washington sank in 2014 after Russia's annexation of Crimea from Ukraine, and they remained strained over a range of other issues. A U.S. Navy nuclear engineer and his wife have been charged with selling secret information about the Navy's submarine program. They were caught by an FBI sting operation.
Jonathan Toby is said to have passed a package of restricted data to an unidentified foreign country last year, according to the Justice Department. Later, he began selling information to an undercover FBI agent posing as a foreign operative for payments in cryptocurrency totaling $100,000. Court documents say that at one point he hid a digital memory card containing sensitive information on nuclear submarine reactors in half a peanut butter sandwich. The sandwich was left at a dead drop in West Virginia, while his wife, Diana, acted as a lookout. Another was hidden in a pack of chewing gum. Authorities say the couple are from Annapolis, Maryland, and were arrested during one of their drops in West Virginia. They're being charged with violating the Atomic Energy Act.
Veterans Day 2021 is right around the corner. A fitness club in Delaware has kicked off its annual salutes campaign to honor military retirees. This year, it's partnering with a nonprofit organization reaching out to homeless veterans and their families. Let's take a look.
1 month ahead of Veterans Day, the Hockerson Athletic Club in Delaware is ramping up its Salute campaign. It aims to support homeless veterans and their families.
What the campaign is local community members and businesses typically buy flags for their loved ones or just to show support of the veteran community, and we put them out on Veterans Day and line our drive. It's really beautiful. The community loves to come see it.
The club has been running this initiative for 8 years, with a total of $140,000 raised for veterans' causes.
These are people who have fought for our freedoms. These are people who have spent years and years of their life dedicating themselves to public service, and it's a great way to repay that service.
This year, all proceeds will go to Beds for Vets, a nonprofit organization that procures house furnishings for military retirees. Typically, local governments offer shelter programs for homeless veterans, but these apartments are often empty, with no beds, towels, or kitchenware. Beds for Vets co-founder Zachary Bagden said many of those veterans are women living in harsh conditions with their children.
When you hear about a veteran and their 2 children who are sleeping on the floor for months at a time, it's heartbreaking. They don't have a shower curtain. They don't have towels to take a shower with. They can't prepare their own meals. They don't have a fork, silverware, pots, and pans. These are things that we all take for granted, and it is incredibly heartwarming to hear their stories.
Beds for Vets coordinates with the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So far, the organization has helped over 30 different veteran families since its founding in 2018.
We're not so pie in the sky that we think we can beat homelessness in Delaware or anywhere else in the country. Homelessness is still going to exist. But what can we do in our small community in this tiny little state of Delaware to greatly reduce that number? And if that model is successful, ultimately we want that model to be used elsewhere in the country.
A government report counted some 38,000 homeless veterans as of January 2020. That represents 8% of all homeless adults in the United States.
And Taiwan's president says the island will keep bolstering its defenses to ensure nobody can force it to accept the path China has laid down, one that offers neither freedom nor democracy.
Fighter jets paraded across Taiwan's skies on Sunday, marking the island's National Day. Addressing a rally outside the presidential office in Taipei, President Tsai Ing-wen continued to rebuff comments made by Chinese leader Xi Jinping, who said he wanted to see a peaceful reunification with Taiwan.
We will continue to bolster our national defense and demonstrate our determination to defend ourselves in order to ensure that nobody can force Taiwan to take the path China has laid out for us, a path that offers neither a free and democratic way of life for Taiwan.
China has long claimed Taiwan as its own territory, with the island facing growing military and political pressure to accept Beijing's rule. That includes repeated Chinese Air Force missions in Taiwan's airspace, which Tsai says has seriously affected national security and aviation safety. China's activities there have been condemned internationally. Tsai's speech comes a day after Xi vowed to realize China's reunification with Taiwan. Although he didn't directly mention the use of force, his comments drew an angry backlash from Taipei. Tsai said only Taiwan's people can decide the future.
We will not act rashly, but there should be absolutely no illusions that the Taiwanese people will bow to pressure.
Though Taiwan has repeatedly called for talks with Beijing, it refuses to deal with her and instead has branded her a separatist. She warned her people on Sunday, quote, "We do not have the privilege of letting down our guard."
And the new James Bond film, No Time to Die, debuts below expectations at the U.S. box office. The movie's release was first scheduled for April 2020 before the pandemic pushed it to over a year later. That and more on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new Precious Metals IRA. Call now.
Why could gold and silver prices be headed much higher? The Fed keeps printing more money. The dollar is getting weaker and weaker. And now we have the threat of rising inflation. How can you protect your hard-earned savings?
In an environment of high degrees of uncertainty, much higher levels of volatility, I think you're going to see a bigger gravitation towards the idea of ownership of gold.
Plagues and wars and regime changes, gold and silver have held their value through all of that and more.
What you really need to do, get yourself some real, genuine protection that can be found in precious metals.
Call for these special reports and Precious Metals Guide. Find out how high massive money printing and inflation could send gold and silver prices.
I think gold and silver will win big.
When you call, ask how you can get $5,000 in bonus gold or silver. Call 800-960-3100. 800-960-3100.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk hosted a county fair-style festival to celebrate the upcoming grand opening of Germany's new Tesla plant. Up to 9,000 people attended the Saturday event and were able to explore the factory and see how the electric cars are made. Here's more.
The one-day festival started at 10 a.m. Crowds waited in line that morning to see the inside of the new Tesla factory near Berlin. Tesla fans as well as local residents attended.
This day is unique. The Tesla factory in Germany will be open to the public for the first time. That is a very special day. The technology is very interesting. How the car is being built, what the actual production steps are, and to see some familiar faces from the Tesla family.
Visitors could see firsthand how the vehicles are put together. At peak performance, the factory will be able to produce 500,000 electric vehicles per year. That's more than double what Germany produced in 2020. But not everyone was happy about the plant's opening.
What you see here is really an illegal construction, because it all happened without a building permit. It is the biggest environmental disaster, what is happening here.
A consultation of public concerns towards the Tesla factory ends on October 14th. After which the local environmental ministry will decide whether to reject or approve the plant's opening. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
In the Ramon crater in the desert of southern Israel, a team of 6, 5 men and 1 woman have begun simulating what it will be like to live for about a month on Mars.
In the desert of southern Israel, a team of 6 scientists have begun simulating what it might be like to live on Mars. The red-hued Ramon crater will be home for about a month to the 5 men and 1 woman participating in the mission. Their Amadi 20 habitat is tucked beneath a rocky step. Inside, they sleep, eat, and conduct experiments. Outside, they wear mock spacesuits fitted with cameras, microphones, and self-contained breathing systems. Dr. Gernot Gromer, the director of the Austrian Space Forum running the project, says the more mistakes they make during the simulation, the better.
We have the motto of fail fast, fail cheap, and have a steep learning curve, because for every mistake we make here on Earth, we hopefully don't repeat it on Mars, because we've done it before.
The Austrian Association is collaborating with the Israel Space Agency and local group D-Mars. The 6 team members are constantly on camera with their vital signs monitored, and their movements inside the habitat are tracked to analyze favorite spots for congregating. 36-year-old Alon Tenzer is on the simulation team.
Yeah, we're 6 people working in tight space under a lot of pressure to do a lot of tasks. There are bound to be challenges. But I trust my crew that we're able to overcome those challenges. We learn how to work together, we train together, and we're very confident.
Outside, other engineers and specialists will work with a drone and rover to improve autonomous navigation and mapping on a world where GPS is not available. Altogether, they will carry out more than 20 experiments in fields including geology, biology, and medicine, and hope to publish some of the results when finished.
William Shatner played a space-traveling Captain Kirk, but in real life, he's never actually been to space. That's supposed to change tomorrow. Instead of taking the Enterprise, he's shooting for the stars in a Blue Origin spacecraft. NTD's Miguel Moreno has reactions from NASA's astronauts.
That's William Shatner there on the left, the actor who played as Star Trek's Captain Kirk. He's set to leave Earth on Tuesday. Shatner is expected to take off in a Blue Origin spacecraft owned by Jeff Bezos. A NASA SpaceX astronaut says the 90-year-old actor is setting a precedent.
I think they're all pioneers. They're taking risks, obviously. And as a result, they're expanding the boundaries for what humans can do. One of these days, we can't just have highly selected folks who train for years to go into space. We do want the situation where people can buy a ticket and go. And so, William Shatner is a true pioneer, as is everybody else has gone with the private companies.
This will make Shatner the oldest man in space of all time, a title he's expressed his dissatisfaction with. But he'll only be off the ground for about 10 minutes and go no higher than about 66 miles. Then an earthbound Shatner will parachute onto the Texas desert ground.
I'm very, very impressed that at the age of 90, he's in such a good condition to fly to space. And it's just for me a nice message that clearly tells you can never be too old to live your dream.
But reaching for your dreams can be scary. In a recent Comic-Con panel, the actor said, "I'm Captain Kirk and I'm terrified." Shatner says a friend of his had the idea of sending Captain Kirk into space about a year ago. Eventually, Amazon's Jeff Bezos got involved. Shatner's fans say they like the idea.
First off, I was an avid watcher of Star Trek the entire time. All the series, loved it, And I think it's just so awesome that he's getting ready at 90 years old to go into space. That is fantastic. I really love that whole thing.
I would love to be a fly on that wall, and because I really want to know who's going to be giving the commands when they're up in space. But I think it's fantastic for all of us. It just makes space travel so much more accessible.
According to Blue Origin, the liftoff is targeted for 8:30 in the morning Central Daylight Time. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Blue Origin said it will delay the launch by 1 day because of forecasted winds. The NS-18 will now lift off from Launch Site 1 at 8:30 a.m. Wednesday. And No Time to Die, the latest installment in the James Bond franchise, debuted to $56 million at the domestic box office. That's somewhat short of expectations, and it signals that even one of the most storied brands in film history has to contend with the effects of the pandemic.
Heading into its U.S. opening weekend, James Bond flick No Time to Die had a lot going for it. The hype was huge. The 25th installment of the spy thriller franchise, it marks actor Daniel Craig's final billing as the rakish secret agent. And both film critics and audiences seemed to like the flick, which scored high on ratings site Rotten Tomatoes. And atop all that was pent-up demand for a long-delayed movie that was first scheduled to hit theaters in April 2020, just as closures and health measures upended the theater world. No Time to Die was projected to pull in $60 to $70 million over its U.S. debut weekend, and it fell short. The film took in $56 million over the first 3 days. That would be cause for celebration for a lot of movies, but this is a Bond flick with a production budget of $250 million and another $100 million spent on marketing. Still, No Time to Die has already enjoyed an impressive global box office of $313 million.
Thanks for watching. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. I'm Evelyn Lee. See you next time.
Before you go, here's something you should know. Don't forget you can catch all of NTD's programs on television. NTD Business premieres live Mondays through Fridays at 5 p.m. We broadcast to many of your favorite platforms, Apple TV and Roku, for example. We're also rapidly growing on cable, satellite, and over-the-air all across the United States. Just go to ntd.com/TV, type in your zip code, and find all the ways you can watch NTD.